Welcome back to the Music Garage Podcast.
What's going on, y'all?
I'm Zach.
I'm Jacob.
And we are going to talk today about being music instructors. That's what we do. The last several weeks, we've been just kind of talking about random topics that have kind of maybe come up in the life of the studio here. But today we're kind of like taking a direction and hitting a path. In direction to help from a top-down type of level, music instructors. So today we're going to be talking about why I teach and answering that question.
Yes. And
kind of unpacking that and like how we think about this could possibly help maybe other people if you're listening to this or watching this. But yeah, that's what we're up to today. So like, maybe let's just start. Like, let's just jump right in with the question, why do I teach? You want to hit it off?
Yeah. So probably like 99% of private music instructors, teaching started as just a side job of like, I had gigs, I wanted to play here and there, but then it was like, I want to be a full-time musician. What can I do to make that happen? And man, that just stemmed from a place of I needed some extra cash.
And
this is
the skill set.
Right. It's like, well, I know how to play guitar, so surely I can show somebody else how to play guitar. Which probably for the first couple of years wasn't true.
That's an honest statement if I've ever heard it.
Yeah. Yeah. The first couple of years were so hard. I worked for this other studio here locally, and they're still a thing, and they're awesome. The guy who owns it is one of the best teachers I've ever met in my life.
Hands down.
One of the best musicians I've ever met in my life.
Also, hands down.
And what's crazy is he has such a way of like from the 4-year-old who just wants to hit a cowbell all the way up to the adult who is a touring, gigging professional or a session player. He's got stuff for all of them. Now, the thing that sucked was my room was on the opposite side of the building. I never got to hear what he did. He never got to hear what I did.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. He never heard me teach.
Wow.
Yeah, ever.
That's crazy.
We just assumed
I guess we're doing the
thing.
Stuff. Wow.
And so I'm still in a band with him. I'm in actually several different groups with him. We play together a lot. We play together at church. We gig on the weekends. And
great player. Like,
unreal. Like, the best around.
Yeah.
On every instrument, which is
just stupid proficient.
Yeah. And so, we were just talking about this on Saturday or Sunday. We had a rehearsal, and I was like, man, you just do such a good job of being so patient and whatever. And he's like, well, I started teaching when I was 17, and then he worked for another studio that you worked for at one point, and then when they wanted to retire, he bought the studio and is still doing that now. And now he's been, I don't know, 15 years of being the owner. And he just does such a good job with students. And my wife worked for him for 11 years teaching, and she would always tell me these things, and I never really realized while I was teaching there how bad I was doing. And I don't think he ever realized it either, because he didn't hear me. And pretty much in the same year, maybe the next year, I started teaching at your studio on the opposite days, on the days I wasn't there. And honestly, you were two different markets. You were one side of Indy and then way north of Indy. So it's like, it wasn't really competition at that point.
Which that was on purpose.
Right. I would have never gone in the same town, gone to a different lesson studio.
And not even just for you, but for me. I like that. I don't know. I feel like there's something to that, especially like if you're not talking about like franchises, right?
Right.
Like, and you've got like a smaller market, like say sub 60,000 people in a community. Yeah,
Right.
there's room for everybody there. But in that particular town, there's not the wealth distributed across it the way some other towns are.
Sure.
So there really isn't. There's not really particularly room, I don't believe.
Yeah.
And especially if you're friends.
Right. 100%.
Especially if you're friends, especially if you
Right.
care about the other person, even if you haven't talked. That was my case. I wanted him to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys probably hadn't talked in years at that point.
No,
but,
we hadn't.
There was still that mutual respect.
Yeah.
What was different is I started teaching in your space, and your space was awful.
Awful. It's pretty, but it was awful.
It was so loud. It
Mm-hmm.
was so hard to focus.
Yep. Terrible.
And it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But you stayed after you were done every night to listen to me teach, and you helped me through so many things. Like, I know we've talked about Frankie in the past, and like, my initial thought on Frankie, I had this student named Frankie. He was is like a prodigy level kid who, or I guess he's an adult now, but he was
an
like
adult now.
14 or 13 at that time.
He's got his commercial driver's license. Hi, Frankie. We love you.
Yeah. And he wanted to learn like all this Yngwie Malmsteen and John Petrucci and like all this stuff. And when I was like, hang on, I need you to understand the modes and the 5 positions of the pentatonic scale and all this stuff, he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to learn the songs. And then he would come the next week with a song learned, and he'd like, look, I can play Glasgow Kiss. And I'm like, cool. What are the notes?
What did I teach you?
What?
What did I walk you through?
Golly. And I would get so frustrated, and you helped me through that a lot. And then in the same sense, I had another kid, I'm struggling to remember his name. I took him fishing.
His name is
Liam. Yeah.
Yeah, his name is Liam.
And Liam had never touched a guitar before his first lesson. And so, like, in that sense, I was like, how do I teach somebody from ground zero? I don't know how to do that. And you took a lot of time to help me through that. And I remember asking you, this is probably the most obnoxious thing I've ever asked you. I was like, can I give you all the new students and you give me all your good students?
I remember that. It's so funny. Because, like, listen, I would gladly do that, too. Because, like, for those of you, maybe this is your first time listening to us or watching us, like, Jacob is an amazing guitar player. And he's actually, like, a really great drummer, solid bass player. But as far as, like, music mind, I went to college for music theory. And the way his mind works around the fretboard on music theory, just honestly, sometimes it's embarrassingly so good to me that I don't feel good enough to be here, even though I own the thing. But it just, he's so good. So like, but like when he says that, I feel that because I'm like, yes, take all of my good students that like they can play with click, they have clean chords, and take them and just make them whatever it is that you are, because
Well, no, I mean,
I just bowed if you're just listening.
That's like, I can take an intermediate or an advanced player and make them polished, but I like taking a beginner and making them know G, C, and D was like torture to me.
Yeah,
and it still kind of is sometimes
because the win, that's
Yes.
the defining the win.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was so funny because Frankie came in one day and had all 7 modes memorized and was playing them from the 1st fret to the 24th fret because, of course, he always had a shredder guitar and and was playing them proficiently and was doing triplets at 140 BPM. I mean, was just cooking through them.
Yeah, he could.
Yeah,
his wrist.
And then
boogie.
he could switch between alternate picking, hybrid picking, and economy picking while doing all that. And like, just, I mean, he was a monster. And it was so funny because I would have him, and then my next lesson didn't know what a G chord was.
Oh,
And I was like, but you took the time to sit down with me and teach me, like, okay, you have your idea of what you think they should know. But you can't take somebody who doesn't know the names of the strings and go, this is called Ionian. And it's our natural major scale, and walk through the whole thing.
No, you honestly can't hardly take anybody that is actually just an intermediate strummer through that. Right. Not really.
And because that's like, in my mind, that's where I started. I Mel Bay modern method, and I was like, okay, we're going to learn to read notes, and we're going to learn to, here's a major scale, and we'll get some triads in there and some 2-note chords and whatever. And then like, it didn't even occur to me that like, I should get them strumming some root position chords first,
and knowing what root note was.
Yeah, and it was a whole thing for me, and I think part of that stems to when I was a kid. I had a teacher who plays like I play now, and still plays around town, and is the most brilliant music theory mind I've ever met. And he and it was a little unfair because I grew up in a family of musicians, and both my brothers play guitar, and like, so
you have a background.
When I was 4, I got a little 3/4 scale guitar, and I remember this like it was yesterday. I had a $5 bill, and I thought I was rich. And I remember running upstairs, giving it to my brother Joseph, and so, here's $5. Show me chords. And
that's cool.
And he did, and that was pretty much the only lesson he ever gave me, because he was like, "I don't teach. Get away from me." And so I remember that, and then so by the time I started taking lessons with Mike, I had a pretty good knowledge of basic theory and chords and soloing and improv and all that. But man, I thought I was hot crap. I came into that lesson and I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm 12. I don't know what you can teach me, but like, we could jam right now and I could show you some stuff. And Mike was like, please do. Let's do it. Mike was like 27, 28 at the time. So my age now. And I was like, all right, here we go. And I think we just did like a 12-bar blues in E, and I didn't know what a 12-bar blues was. And so I was like, oh, that's a cool chord progression. He's like, yeah, you said let's jam. It's 12-bar blues. Let's do this. And then he knocked me down a couple levels. I had a really bad habit of economy picking and like certain things that were just really awful in my technique. And I remember leaving a lesson in tears one time because I was so freaking frustrated of just talking about technique. I was like, who cares? And then of course I get carpal tunnel, and now I'm like, thank you, Mike, for helping me through all that. But so like Mike hit me with technique and then building theory. Because I could strum chords and I could solo lightly and whatever, and he just took me to the next level, and still to this day takes me to the next level all the time. And but I couldn't. I was trying to push that on people who didn't know what the E string was. Yeah, and you were the one who kind of pushed me aside and was like, "Hey, you can't do that." And then fast forward to this year, or I guess last year. Last year. When this building opened, I had left my corporate job to come work here full time and teach all the time. And a lot of it, I felt like a lot of it I was dealing with like imposter syndrome of like, I can piggyback off Zach and like fake my way through some teaching because Zach can teach so well. And like you and I met several times a week, every week still to this day.
Yeah.
And
actually more coming up too.
Yeah.
Your schedule.
Yeah. And the confidence boost from day one, because day one with new students is always like, how are you? What grade are you in? What do you do for a living? Blah, 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 blah. And then here's some things, try to remember it. And then the next week you build it. So like, I think I remember, do you remember the day we opened? We were like on a high. Like the doors closed at night, the last student left, and we just kind of like celebrated.
Yeah, I remember.
It was so cool.
That's cool. It feels like literally an eternity ago, which is funny.
Does,
because
it was
there's so much
5 months ago.
It's 5 months ago, and like I don't know, it's like this whole like reopening after after the fire 8 months later is like it just I don't know.
And it was one of those things that like I just from because I'll take my breaks. And I'll sit basically where the camera is, which is around the corner from your room, and I'll listen to your teaching, or I'll go upstairs and I'll listen to Mark, and I'll listen to Eric, and I'll listen to whoever. And I think I've come so far as a teacher that it's no longer the mentality of like, I got these gigs on the weekend, I got to supplement some income between these gigs to pay my bills. Now it's like, I have these students who trust me, and I get to pour into their life, and I get to help make their life better, and I get to transfer some knowledge to them that no matter if they can't play sports, they can't run a mile, they can't do whatever, they will always have this knowledge to fall back on, or they'll have this knowledge to fling their career forward 100 steps. Sure. And so it's one of those things that it's been a mindset shift for me of going from I can be the teacher who is just like, here's some knowledge, write this down, get out of my room, to like, I'm actually a part of these kids' lives or adults' lives, so much so that one of our adult students yesterday just brought me a gift out of the blue, and it was the coolest sweatshirt I've ever seen.
It was really cool.
And like, it was... It just said, it was like certified...
It's a certified guitar teacher.
Certified and trusted guitar teacher.
Certified and trusted.
And I just thought about that. And like, and these people are older than me.
Certified and trusted. That's kind of cool.
It was so cool. And like, I went home and I showed Alyssa. I was like, look what I got. And she was like, do you get it? And I thought about it for a second. I was like, maybe. And sorry, y'all, the sump pump just kicked on. We're in the basement. and
all I can think about is Elf right now, where he's in the corner. He's like, that's the furnace, buddy.
Yeah. She was like, do you get it? Do you get that? What that like? Do you get the trust that people have in you?
Yeah.
And it honestly, a lot of it clicked last night.
Yeah.
And I just thought about that, and I haven't even talked to you about this. I was up till
I'm actually trying not to cry.
I was up till like 3 a.m. last night thinking about this.
Yeah, as you're talking, I was like legit like, hey, don't cry right now. At least.
Yeah.
No.
All of a sudden, the fire makes you soft. You cry all the time now.
Dude, the fire does make me soft. I don't.
But yeah, so
I do cry all the time.
All that to say, my why has changed so much from. Got to get some extra income, got to get some fast cash. And which is funny because when I started with you, like 2016, 2017, I told you that. And you were like, oh yeah, I can, we got you cash. Let's do this. And you gave me, I don't know, 10 students or 15 students or whatever. And I was trying to own this guitar shop. It was a whole thing.
It was a whole thing.
If I would have...
It's a sad thing.
If I would have just left that shop right then and started teaching with you, we would be in a different place.
We'd be in a different city.
We'd be in a different city.
Different building.
Much different lives.
Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Weird.
Doesn't matter.
It's weird to think about that.
Now, my why is fully based on the impact that we get to have and that we get to not only teach music, but we get to be a role model. We get to be a mentor. We get to be so much more than just an instructor.
Yeah.
And that not only has changed my life and how I teach, but it's just changed my life in every aspect of it makes me think about every decision I make now.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, your presence here has changed our life from a lot of different standpoints, from the business, but just from personal responsibility. We have 4 kids.
Right.
And you're here and you just had a baby, and you have a lot of responsibility here. You have the most responsibility outside of Krista and I, you know, and we lean on you heavily. And you know, you're coming through. Like, that's amazing. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool.
I hope so.
Yeah. Like, you know, but like, you know, there's no blueprint here for what we're trying to do. Right. I mean, when's the last time you looked up a podcast about, you know, being a music instructor? It doesn't exist. Not really. Yeah. No, that's, God, it's so good. It's so good.
Sorry, I just ranted for 20 minutes.
No, it's just like, no, but I like connect with all that. Like, and we've been around each other long enough to like in so many different formats of ourselves, and now we're sitting here in the new formats, and now we've arrived at this space where like we're both trying to be healthy, we're both trying to be on mission, and like guarding the mission while simultaneously like defining what it looks like to lead our families at the same time.
Yep.
And like survive in an economy that like is super you know, up and down. We're not up and down, but everything else is, so that's kind of a little scary.
Right.
Like, and your life's changed because of baby. It's just kind of nuts. So you know, I want to riff on this. Just like when I hear like you talk about that why, right? Because you made like this crazy transition, and it wasn't like, and you left corporate because you saw maybe something, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like so, and maybe can we talk about that just for a second? Like what did you, like what caused that? Like what caused you to see it? Because I mean, yeah, you had a good gig. Like in it, you're working with friends, and I don't know, like what caused you to do something different?
A couple things really. The I think the biggest thing for me was I wanted a way to be a full-time musician again, because before COVID, I was a full-time musician for 8 years. And granted, when I took this job, that corporate job, I didn't know COVID was going to happen, but I took that job in January of 2020. And then 2 months later, everything went to crap and was shut down. Yeah. And which was good, because I wouldn't have had any gigs. I wouldn't have had any guitar sales. I wouldn't have had anything. And the which Ben, the guy who hired me, was one of my best friends in the world, made some really good points about that. About when I think what I was getting burnt out at the end of 2019. I was really getting burnt out. Stuff had happened at that guitar shop. I was trying to do my own thing. I wasn't doing it very good. I was struggling with tax bills and keeping rent current and all sorts of things. And then Ben was like, look, I know this isn't what you want to do, but I have this job. It will pay all your bills. And it will provide for your family. And I had never had an office job that was like a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. It was weird to me. And then because whatever I do, I always try to dive in. And so then I was like, okay, well then I can move up to this level and then this level. And I was like, I'll do this for the rest of my life. And at this level, you make $1 million and whatever. And who cares? And I just remember well, the fire happened at your old studio, and I was on the other side of that. I was working in the insurance office that was processing all of that. And as I was going through stuff, part of me was jealous of like, oh, I want that drum set. I want that soundboard. I want that guitar. And then the other part of me, the luthier part of me, was doing the repairs on those instruments, and or at least advising to where those repairs could be done. And it got to the point where I just wanted to be a musician so bad again. And not that I stopped playing. Like, I was gigging the whole time I worked in that job. And I was, every Friday, Saturday, I was gigging. Every Sunday, I was playing at church, whatever. The biggest thing for me, I think, at that moment was we were trying to make a go on your music.
We were.
Because at that point, you didn't know what you were going to do.
I didn't know if we were going to reopen. And so, like, just some context here in the timeline, like, so we had there's a restaurant next to our building that caught on fire, and we sustained all kinds of smoke and soot damage. And then our building was open for just a couple weeks, like when all our stuff was in there, and we were told not to move it. And then we were told that we could move it. And then all of our stuff was damaged and compromised in some way, shape, or form. And then it just became this big giant fight for like a long time. And everything's worked out or whatever, but like during that process, like I had all kinds of opportunities, previously when I was younger to write, record, and tour and stuff, and I never really given it an honest shot. And I thought, you know what, like, all right, well, now it's time to do it. So I started writing. I'd already been writing. I started writing some songs, and we stared recording, and we planned out a tour, and I
got a couple songs released.
Got a couple songs released. They're on the radio. I'm a CMA member. Like, I was just able to join, like, just do all kinds of cool stuff. And like, there's opportunities that we had, like, I've had since then, I've turned down. And
so that was, you had given me the opportunity to mix and master all those songs.
Yeah.
And
because I believed you could do it. You were meticulous enough to do it.
Yeah.
And you had the skill set.
And we started going through it, and like, I would be so excited. I'd come home from my corporate job, and I'd immediately jump into my music room and just start working on it. Yeah. And I did that every night for a couple months, or all through January, February. Well, then you came to me and you said, hey, well, first it started with, I'm building an Atmos room.
I did. I'm building an Atmos room. And I was so excited about that. Excuse me.
And then that didn't happen.
It didn't happen. And I'm glad it didn't happen.
Because what happened is we went to Sweetwater.
And
we bought a bunch of gear.
Yep.
And you were like, you know what? I think I have enough gear. I could actually teach some lessons out of my room at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you were like, do you want to do that? You could come over after work and teach into the evening or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought about it.
One day a week or something.
I was like, no, I don't want to teach. And then you're like, just do it. And then I was like, I need the extra money. and so I started
How
doing
it always starts for the teacher. I need a little bit extra cash.
I started doing it. And then who'd I have? I had like Parker, Callahan, Drew, two Drews, and Grant. That was my 5.
Yeah.
That was the guys you started me with. Man, they're all awesome.
Yeah.
They were all awesome. And like,
I think they're all still here minus one Drew.
Callahan.
No, Callahan. Oh yeah, no, yeah, but the
not.
Drew's still here. The other Drew's still here. He's not. I don't think he's with you, is he?
No, he's not.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, Callahan. Callahan moved on to sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll be back. He told me he goes, someday.
Yeah.
Because he wants to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Anyway, blues lawyer. And so Alyssa was like, my wife asked me when I got home, she was like, so what do you think? I was like, these kids are awesome. And and every week she asked me, so what do you think? So what do you think? So what do you think? And it got to the point where I was like excited for work to end so I could go teach. And then it got to the point even more that you were like, hey, here's the deal. If you will do this, we're going to reopen. And I thought about that, and I thought, I have a good, like,
Yep.
I have a good corporate job, and I have, I have my taxes come out of my check, and like, I just started thinking about all this stuff, and then
It is a benefit. Like, your taxes coming out of your check is a benefit.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to think about it, like, but it is. Like,
Yeah.
It's helpful.
and then you said, you're like, okay, well, whatever. And we let the conversation die for a second, but you kept bringing it up every now and then. And I'm telling you, I couldn't sleep at night. That's all I could think about was like, oh, I could do this. I could be a musician again. And then as we started talking details, I remember telling Alyssa, I was like, this is the right thing to do. And Ben's going to be mad, but it's the right thing to do. And he was mad for a second, but we're fine now. We still hang out.
We also hang out.
Yeah. And
Ben's my insurance agent, and he's awesome. And he has the best popcorn in the land.
That's not true. He hasn't put any butter on it. It's just salt.
It's so good.
Anyway, the popcorn is a big point of contingency in the office.
This podcast is not sponsored by Benny's.
No.
But it is sponsored by the popcorn.
Yeah. So anyway, it all came down to it all came down to when I realized, like, I was making an impact in somebody else's life, and I was playing guitar, and I was with my friends, and X, Y, and Z. It started just piling on, and I was like, "Yep, this is it. This is what we have to do." And Alyssa was not on board at first. She was like, "No. You have a nice corporate job, like our paycheck's the same every month," and, which isn't true because it was commission. And so, but I was like, yeah, okay. So I think it took her 2 or 3 months to get on board, and several conversations with you and Krista. And once she was on board, everything started to come together. And yeah.
Like, and so, like, just like hearing it out loud, it's kind of a lot. Like,
it's a lot.
Like, hearing it out loud, it's a lot. It's a lot because there's so many like small details that have to align, right? Like, there's the big stuff, right? Like, is the clientele going to be there? Is there going to be a space? Is the space going to be good enough? Can we like deal with the things that aren't good? Is there like do we like the people we work with? We don't know everybody. We know we like each other, but everybody else was a question mark. And like, it really was minus one person, a full rebuild plus a full rebuild of, like, we had nothing to start with, and we're back, and it's like, goodness, it's really wild to think about the process that we've been through. But it also changed us, like, and it changed me, and it made me like ask some like really intentional questions. And one of the questions that I had to ask myself is like, why would I do this again? Because I had all the opportunity in the world to go and do something else and to just play my music, and I really could do it. And I had a window where I didn't have to think about it. Like, our income was going to be all right, and I could have really done it. And I guess this is as much of a why as like my original why of teaching. But Chris and I, my wife's Krista, she's the CEO here. She does a heck of a job, amazing operator of a company. And she belongs in so many places. Actually, she's been offered jobs at so many different places, but since we reopened, but she won't go because this is where she belongs. But we went to, I forget what that venue is called. It's not the Bluebird. It's in Bloomington. We went to see Larry Fleet there, and we had tickets from the record label. They sent it out there because I'm friends with Brian Waymeyer. He's a manager for Larry Fleet, and my buddy Xander, he plays utility for him. And they'd been giving me artist coaching for a while, and went down there to like just see it happen, really, and have a conversation with Xander or Larry or whoever's there, and just to hang out and see a show. And so we drove down there, and like all these opportunities were like popping up, and we're driving, and Krista is talking to me, and I was planning on like doing like a tour, like where we book a venue, not like a restaurant or something, but like an actual theater, partner with an organization and market it for the organization, you know, and that we're showing up. We've got good band that's coming with us. We got full production, all the things, and like part of the money would go to raise that organization. The other part we just wanted to break even and make sure like you could be a full-time guitar player again. That was one of my most primary concerns, that Jacob could be a full-time guitar player again. That's what I really wanted to see happen. His wife Alyssa plays keys and is an amazing vocalist and great songwriter and arranger. But like, so like we had this opportunity, but then like all the opportunities I was getting because of the radio play, and like, like I couldn't take everybody with me. Like that was the thing. Like, and like I started really becoming a quick realization. Like if I wanted to monetize it quicker, like so I know that my 4 kids are going to be okay. Like I'd have to leave and do different things. And so we're driving to the venue, and Krista is talking to me. She goes, you know, you can't take us all with you. And I don't know if I ever told you this. This is what she said. Have I never told you this story? She goes, you can't take us all with you. You're going to have to go on your own. That's what she said. And it like I can literally like feel it right now, like the level of weight that was. And I just started thinking about it, and I like could not shake it. And so I go in the venue, and like, dude, I've never been in a more packed place in my entire life. I mean, dude, just freaking sardines. Tour bus is out there, you know, and like I see, you know, Xander, like we hang out and talk, and like we're just you know shooting the breeze, and I'm having this conversation, and Xander's living like he is a third generation session player. Yeah. Like, you know, his dad and his grandpa were all session players, and you know, you'd know their names if I could remember their names. They're on some awesome records, and like I'm talking about the leg of the tour they're on, and so he's like, yeah, this part of the leg's been great. I've got like, you know, 6 dates left, and you know, and then we have a few weeks off, and we go back for another little leg, and I'm like, well, cool. It's like, what makes this one different than like what you were doing earlier this year? He goes, oh man, when I was loading into Madison Square Garden, he goes, it was raining, and I was loading my own gear in out of a van to Madison Square Garden, and like he's talking about that, right? And I was like, oh, that's weird. And he goes, yeah, so we got like some roadies now. It's like really cool. I'm like, that's dope. I was like, what are you going to do when you get, you know, on the couple weeks off? He goes, oh yeah, first day back. He goes, man, I'm playing with a little trio at this little restaurant in downtown Broadway. Yep. And I go, what? Yep. And he goes, yep, and you're doing that. And, you know, I got like 15, 20 students that I'm, you know, teaching when I'm in town. And like, it just like, and obviously, you know, that is the session player's life, you know, in some way, shape, or form. Yep. And that's not Larry's life, you know, as a songwriter and artist, you know, and I would have a different experience than him. But when I heard him say that, I thought of you, and I thought to myself, that sounds awful. and so like here I am, like weighing, like I'm going to go do this thing, and I'm in a place that felt unfamiliar with so many people that I had no desire to be around. That's the most honest thing I could ever say. Yeah. Like the people that were there were very something. I don't know what you'd call it. They're just not my people. Sure. You know, Larry, the whole group, everybody there was amazing. The band, the label rep, label rep, everything was great. You know, they welcomed us with open arms. It was cool. Like we got to hang, and I drove home so perplexed and just out of sorts, because I just realized I didn't want anything to do with it. And that was just the weirdest place to be, because like I recorded when I was 18 with Sony. I did a thing at the Opry. I've played with people and been in places and been invited to relationships I have no business being in. And I always thought it was because, you know, a little bit of my charisma, a little bit of my willingness to get told no, and a little bit of my talent, and a little bit of just luck, you know. And it might be all those things put together. But I decided that like I didn't want to push down doors anymore. Yeah. And that decision led me to the question of, so what's it look like? Why do I teach? And that really boils down to, I want to make a difference. That's why I wanted to tour the way I wanted to, is because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make an impact in the communities we went to, because if I could make an impact in the communities we went to, then there would be value in it that we gave first, that we give first, and then we receive based upon the fact that we gave first. And that's kind of the thought process. And I thought, why have I always been successful at teaching? And that's because I've always just kind of showed up. Not the best version of myself, but whatever version of me did show up. And I realized that consistency is not normal. And then when I started like really thinking about coming back online and really getting the thing going again, I thought, how could we make this look different? And that's when the conversations with you started.
Yeah.
And then I went, I don't know what my life's going to look like now. I don't know, like, if we open, what if we fail? What if the first time was a fluke? What if the first 2.5 years were an absolute fluke and it was just COVID and we bucked the system and we said, no, community needs community. People need community. You know what I mean? Like, what if us bucking the system is what got us where we were? And then, a few chance happenings. Like, what if we can't do it again? Like, it was really scary.
Right.
Because, like, honestly, doing the artist thing seemed more like a stable move for myself, not for you.
It would have been.
It would have been for me and my family. I think it would have been a quicker route. It would have been a less headache route. It would have been a different route. Because I was so poised. There was just things there for me to do, and I was excited about it. But I couldn't shake. There was no real why. I just wanted to do it. That's really as selfish. Like that's like it's. I just wanted to write songs. I want to play songs, and like the whole thing was kind of like almost like a facade. And not maybe not 100% true, but like in the sense of like I was made to do something.
Yeah.
I believe I was made to do something, and the thing I'm made to do is I am uniquely gifted and suited to sit across from somebody and to actually care about them. There's a level of empathy that I have in me, and
that's not to say that you won't write songs and you won't record songs and release them.
No, because I'm doing that like this year. Yeah. I got some to go out this year.
But it will at the same point, like you know what you need to do.
That's right. That's right. Only like like it's in your gut. Like when you have a family, like, and you're active in the idea of bettering yourself, like you have a gut that tells you kind of what to do. And for whatever reason, I believed with a curious ferocity, that's the word for ferociousness, ferocity. I don't know. That this would work if I committed to being a different version of myself. And I have had many versions of myself in 5 months. And I think I'm coming up on the better version of myself than the one that started, which is kind of weird because I think the one that started this round in August was the best one I've been yet. So it's this really strange place to be in. So when I answer the why I teach, it's because it's what I'm made for. And what I'm made to do is I'm made to invest in other people in a way that only I can. And that's not unique just to me. I believe that is a good why for every other teacher. Because when we show up and it's not about us, our ego, our paycheck, our desire for a student, our hopes and dreams, as a human, but like it's about the student that's sitting before us, and we can honestly sit back and go, hey, I'm here. This time is yours. And like, I just want to see you thrive. What does that look like today? And like, that's the why for me.
Yeah. And through that why, you have brought a culture to this studio that is unlike anywhere else.
Anywhere I've experienced, and I feel like I fail at that all the time. I actually woke up thinking about that this morning, and I feel like I'm failing right now, which is nutty to say out loud because you're like, you've heard at least a few podcasts, and it seems like we're doing really good stuff, and we are. But like, I'm also a person that's hypercritical of myself because I want things to be the best they can be, and it starts with me. So, and then like, if I can piggyback on that why, like just showing up for other people, like when I first started teaching, it was for money. And like, I was like 14 and I only played guitar for like a couple weeks, and I was like in a book, like learning ahead of what was in there so I could stay ahead of my younger students because they were young kids. And then like, over time, like I've led worship and sang and like did an artistry thing, and like I had other jobs, but I've always kind of taught along the side. And I never really knew like 100% like where it came from until this summer when I was thinking about what my why was. And the truth is I've had two people in my life that were uniquely suited for the moment of my life that I needed them. And one was Mrs. Davis, rest in peace. She is one of the best teachers that ever walked the face of the earth. And anybody from like my 2005, 2006 graduating class at Lapel High School in little old Lapel, Indiana, like would maybe agree with that. Like she had this thing called story time, and like I'm sure lots of teachers did it, but at story time, like I don't know, she'd like make a book come to life. It was amazing. And then she also had this creative writing time, and I remember writing something, and like I'm not a good student. I was terrible at math, and I wrote this like the story, and I was just like I was like almost like the Christmas story when he's like writing his, you know, like I really connect with that because like that's that moment. She picks it up, she looks at it, and she like skims it, you know what I mean? And she puts it down on my desk, and she passed me the mic. She goes, "Zach, this is really good work." And she goes, "You're a good writer." And like that's what she said. And I just I was like, she thinks I'm a good writer. And in my head I correlate, so this is the best storyteller I know. This is the person like she's the best, like it's Mrs. Davis, you know. Yeah. And she said I'm a good writer, right? And then you fast forward, and then Andy Cole was my youth pastor. Yep. And I took guitar lessons for like $10, like a half hour or something like that from him at our youth center for a handful of weeks. And the thing I loved about Andy, and I've tried to bring into my life, is that he had this innate ability to like, if you're with him and you're in a sphere, you're the most important thing at that individual moment. And it can be distracted, like, and he's doing all kinds of things, and sometimes like you can get a little miss with it. But like, if you're in your sphere, like even if he hits a phone call, he'd be like, "I'm right here. Like, I'm not going anywhere. This matters to me." Like he'd tell you, like, and I never forget how it made me feel. And I also know how it made me feel when he left. Yeah. And I never wanted anybody else to feel the way I felt when he left, because I felt like I didn't matter anymore because I wasn't in the sphere anymore. So like, I don't think I've ever said that out loud. So that connection with like a student, how you're talking about, like, you know, you went fishing with one of your students, like in that care and concern. Yeah. And that's what motivates me, because like I was a loser. Like I had bad grades, and I didn't do the things I was supposed to, and like I don't know how I ended up like where I am right now, because like I wasn't on a good path. You know what I mean? Not that I was a bad kid. I just like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I don't like. I just
there with you.
You know. So. Man, it's so tough. Like I failed so much in my life. But for whatever reason, this is an arena that I consistently win at. And by win, I look at our team that's here, and I go, y'all are why I teach, you know? Like, I'm actually not used to people, like, coming around and like listening to me teach. It's kind of weird. Like I have people shadow. Anytime I brought people in, I had them come shadow me for the day. But like it was yesterday. It's so funny. I figured out that's what you were doing the other day. Like, and I'm like, why are you listening to me teach? Like, why do you need me? But like after like listening to you, like you probably pick up weird stuff. Like you probably stand for 30 minutes and take away like a little weird thing I did, and like there was nothing useful, and you're like, man, what the heck are you doing today? Like, are you actually doing anything?
Sweet
like
drum solo.
Yeah, sweet drum solo. Whoops. You know, but like I appreciate hearing that. I don't know, the why changes, and I guess like for you who are listening, because I mean that's what we're doing here is talking to people. Yeah. Is like there's two things that I changed about like the reason I show up to do what I do, and really anything in life at this point, and is that I recognize that there is a why, and I also want to know what the win is, because there's nothing that is absolute and 100%. Like there's not always like this is the perfect win, you know. There's always like caveats that go with whatever, because there's sacrifice that's just tied to anything that you do that is good. Yep. Like you have to sacrifice certain things to make that happen. So what is the win? So once we've defined what the win is, and I know that for this place, and you know that for this place, relationship is the win, because if I have a relationship with somebody, that means they have trust in me, and I have trust in them. This is honest playing court, and all of a sudden we get to go in to a booth with somebody that knows that we have their best interest at heart, and it is 100% untethered to who we think that they should be, and they know that.
Yep.
It gives us the authority to ask them to do things that they don't believe that they can do, and that we can actually believe it for them. More so than even my own kids. I can ask some students to do anything, and they would just do it. And they wouldn't even question it, because they know that when I ask them to, do a triplet, try doing the up with just a flick, try doing whatever it is that I ask them to do. They're like, I can't do it. I'm like, I believe that you can, and they can. Who'd thunk it? And when you do have difficult students, it's like, it doesn't have to be difficult, because you can just sit with them and you can get to know them. And when everybody's informed on that's how the lessons roll around here, then it's always a win when they show up.
Right.
But like for you listening, you define what the win is, and know the why behind the win. Know the why behind the win. If you're showing up for money, you're going to have changeover from students over and over and over again, because they won't stay, because your heartbeat's not with them. You don't actually care about them. You care about their time slot. If you run a studio and you wonder why, you're not getting many calls or many referrals, you might question what your win is. If you're struggling with your reputation or reviews on Google, you might start with, hey, am I actually as good as I think I am? Because the answer is probably not, and we're not as good as I think we are. And that's just an honest assessment. Like if you can't say those things out loud to yourself, what are you doing here?
Yep.
It's just, So
find your reason.
Yeah.
Find your why.
ADD. Yeah.
Yeah. Find your reason to do this. And if your reason is, I need a quick buck,
don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Go drive Uber. Go drive Lyft. Go do something.
The problem with the quick buck, to me anyways, is not that you shouldn't try teaching. It's that you should go shadow somebody teaching.
Yes.
It's that you shouldn't get in a relationship with a student and a family and have a commitment, or go get paid from a lesson studio or a guitar shop, and then you ruin the guitar shop's reputation that was already on the brink because of some crappy customer. Because that happens all the time. It just is what it is. There's we have a Google review on our on Google that is a parent saying that their lessons are amazing and their instructors are amazing, and the waiting room is unthoughtful for the parents. In a 3-star review, except that in the review, he praises the instructors and the lessons, but gave us a 3-star because the chairs weren't comfortable. What? And that's all, folks.
That's hilarious.
There it is. Just hang in there.
Yeah,
we'll get it back. It's all
so all that to say,
V7s are unstoppable.
V7s are unstoppable. All that to say, listen to this a couple times.
Yeah,
listen to this one a couple times.
Yeah,
and really think about your why, and what is your win.
Yeah.
Is your win being the solo artist? Is your win being the mentor? Is your win trying to do all of it?
Not many people can pull that one off.
Not many people can pull that off.
No.
So,
yeah, those some books to maybe throw your way.
Yep.
If you're an instructor and you're not a reader or not a podcaster or something, you need to fix that. You got to get input. I know when I'm starving for input, I'm actually doing that right now. I'm kind of starving for input. I need a book to kind of propel my heart forward a bit. Why? Start with Why by Simon Sinek. Soundtracks by John Acuff. Quitter by John Acuff. Start John Acuff. Atomic Habits. Brene Brown, anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
And here's the reality of it. When you become a teacher, you become an entrepreneur. And you have to
100%.
know your entrepreneur basics. Get a book called EntreLeadership by Dave Ramsey.
Yep.
It's whether you like Dave Ramsey or not, that book is gold.
That's right. Jacob thinks I hate Dave Ramsey, and I'm so curious to know why he thinks I hate Dave Ramsey, but it is literally always the thing we talk about. Listen, this is the Music Garage Podcast, and, we're just music instructors trying to help you. We do have some amazing things happening. The best way you can support this channel on YouTube or the podcast is to go to FortvilleMusicGarage.com/shop, pick up some merch. We make all our own merch in-house. That's awesome. Super high quality, super soft stuff, from Chuck Taylors to t-shirts like the vintage motorcycle tee here. All kinds of stuff. Podcast, leave a review. Please leave a review. And
please leave a 5-star review.
Yeah, not a 3-star because our chairs are uncomfortable.
If you leave a 1-star, your mom probably never taught you, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
That's right. And then follow that up with a direct email, telling us why we suck.
Well, yeah. Like, subscribe, share. All of that stuff helps us.
Things. Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Cool. Peace.